Hello, everybody. Suzanne Kellner-Zinck with Dawn Visions Hypnosis here to talk about the sad news about psychology and psychiatry. And I'm bringing you this information after spending too many years earning 3 master's degrees. The first was in public policy, specializing in medical sociology, where I wrote 160 papers during the time I was in the program, researching a lot of this stuff because I wanted to know the facts of life. And there's peer-reviewed studies on pretty much anything if you're willing to look for them. Second one was in peace and conflict management, which I did at the University of Haifa International School with a bunch of international students. And my favorite courses were about facilitation, mediation, negotiation, because, when you're working with people with really bad, shall we say, self-harming thoughts and behaviors, they need to learn how to do these things both for themselves and with the people in their lives. The third master's was in Instructional Design and Technology, where I had to find the gap in the healing profession. And in this case, it had to do with anorexia and bulimia, because I had figured out how to help my anorexic and bulimic clients heal, because they gave me the answers because I was willing to listen to what they had to say. Imagine that, a professional willing to listen to what their patients, in my case, clients, I don't have a degree in terms of, a license. I don't want one. I don't have one. I will never have one, because they don't really protect anyone but the practitioner. And if you're doing good work with your clients, you don't need to have something like a license. What you need to have is raving clients sharing how they healed and moved on in their lives because of the great work you did with them. Because I can only do the work that I do with my clients with them. I don't do it to them. I don't do it for them. I do it with them, because their answers are in their subconscious mind, and it is my job to access that area and facilitate the healing. Their job is to be honest and do what I need them to do based on what we find they need from their subconscious mind. It's really that simple, guys. So this is the facts of life. Number one, you've heard about the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And I'm here to tell you I did a lot of research on this, because there's a lot of people who are misdiagnosed with mental illness. Some of them don't even have any mental illness. A client many, many years ago who was told by his lovely licensed family psychologist in the inpatient program that he was in that he'd be dead or in jail because of his, shall we say, sexually inappropriate behaviors. Behaviors he had learned from the folks in the foster homes in which he lived from 6 months until he was adopted by this beautiful, loving family when he was 5.5 years old. True story. Yeah, tell me about these people and how they protect their patients. Love to tell you more. They also told his parents he was a pedophile. How can you be a pedophile if you're 16 years old, i.e. you're not an adult, and you've never had sexual intercourse with anybody? Totally insane, inane, and this person needed to lose the license. Enough said on this. The second thing I'd like to say is that the way that the DSM is put together, actually, and it started with a slightly over 100, they call them categories, we call them diagnoses, in 1957. And by the time it got to the 5th edition, they had almost 300. They were creating diagnoses to sell medication, because the system has been captured by Big Pharma. And this is why RFK Jr. is doing his best to stop this. Not to mention the fact that when they test medication, they do it for 6 months, 12 months the max, and the average person who's on a shall we say, medication for mental illness is 5 years or more. And it's really hard for them to get off these medications safely, because a lot of the psychiatrists and the people who prescribe them will not help them do this. And I had a client many years ago, she was anorexic as it happened, who was on some antidepressant, and it was causing so much problems in terms of aches and pains that she was unable to do her own dishes. She couldn't stand that long. And her psychiatrist would not take off these meds. So she titrated down. That means she lessened the dose little by little, by very tiny fractions, till she got the hell off that med. Now, that all happened before I ever met her, but she told me this story, and that's a sad reality, people. You don't want to go on these medications if you don't have to, because Once you're on them, you'll be on them for the rest of your life if the doctors have anything to say about it. There's a few different reasons about this. And this is actually notated in an article that I have left in the description below, so you can look it up for yourself. It's a peer-reviewed article, but there's many more where that came from, that explains how there's so much greed in the medical system in America that people are having medications, labs, and even operations they do not need done. Because doctors are no longer advisors for the patients. They're sales reps for the big university hospital systems for which they work. They have no authority, they have no autonomy to do their job based on the expertise that they gained through their education and their practical experience. It's a very sad commentary, and this is why, believe it or not, death by medicine is the third largest killer of Americans. So think clearly, do your critical thinking, do your research before you decide to do anything. Get a few opinions from a few different people, and I would say go to the integrative doctors because they understand that the body is made of systems. They're not there to sell you drugs and procedures. They're there to help you figure out the root cause of the problem and help you figure that out and heal it from where it came, be it side effects of medication, shall we say toxins from heavy metals, or even mold has caused some of my clients a lot of problems. And the incapacity to metabolize food. Dr. Greenblatt is a gentleman who's been at the forefront of healing mental illness through nutrition because he understands what the, shall we say, lack of certain nutrients does in terms of symptoms of mental illness. And he's been able to heal many, thousands and thousands of clients over the many years he's been in practice. He's an amazing guy. And then there's the issue of just being congruent. Unfortunately, my father passed away from a stroke at the age of 61. I just turned 64 2 days ago. I outlived him by 3 years, which is kind of weird to think about, actually. I was 23 when he passed. And the reason that happened was probably because he was not really dealing with some of his own emotional problems. He lost his father at 12. He lost his only son. He was born 4 years before me. He never really dealt with any of that stuff. Plus, he had the stress of living with my mother, who was, although very intelligent and I would say insightful and at times affectionate individual, she also had borderline personality disorder, which meant that she went crazy. And he never knew when or what was going to trigger her. Not an easy thing to contend with, but he loved her dearly, and she was the mother of the 5 surviving kids, all of us daughters to him, which is why he stayed with her, as he explained to my younger sister, who asked him one day why he stayed with such a crazy woman as our mother. Seriously, that actually happened. She told me the story. It was many years ago, actually. So I want you to know that medical people are not necessarily the best at taking care of themselves. Nurses, almost every time I went into a doctor's office for any kind of procedure or whatever, the nurses are 50 to 100 pounds overweight, and they think they're going to tell me how to be healthy? I don't think so. Obviously, they're not doing what they need to do for themselves. And yes, I understand there's a million different reasons why people hold on to weight. I am a hypnotist after all, and I've studied all this crap. Psychological reasons, thyroid problems, and other hormonal issues, side effects of medication. In fact, there was a point when I was being treated for my manic depression, when I was diagnosed with that. It was back in the late 1980s. That's what it was called. Later bipolar 2. I was put on Depakote, and all I thought about was food. Forever and ever and ever and ever. And I told my shrink at that time, I said, get me off the shit. I am not gaining weight. I'd already put on a lot of water weight thanks to the lithium, and she was changing meds because of issues with my kidneys due to the lithium. Because that can happen as well. Your body cannot detoxify these chemicals that it sees as foreign substances and poison in your system forever and ever. I've been on lithium for 15 years when that happened. It was slowing down the detoxification of drugs and other things. And obviously I had to be taken off that medication, which luckily she did after having me take a 24-hour creatinine level. That's a urine exam. So I come from this from a practical point of view, from my own personal experiences, from working with clients both in conventional mental health, having gone through, I don't know, a year and a half of nursing school. I absolutely hated nursing. I'm not very good at taking orders from other people. My sisters kind of laughed when they found out that I was going to nursing school. But the information that I gleaned from understanding how the body actually works physiologically, I learned a couple of really good, I would say, I hate the word theory, it's so overused in psychology, but life cycle psychology, which explains where a person should be or is thinking about life from a chronological basis. Eric Erickson's stuff is actually really, really good too. And obviously learning about all the personality disorders, because I can't really work with people with full-blown personality disorders because they are not able to take the suggestions from the hypnosis. Although my mother, to her credit, loved being hypnotized. She did. And every time we'd go into it, she had cats and they'd jump on her and she'd just laugh her butt off. But I would just continue and we put her into trance and help her deal with her anxiety or pain or whatever she was dealing with. And it actually worked out really, really well, actually, for her basal carcinoma surgeries. I had made her a recording to listen to, and she was able to deal with those surgeries really well, including getting the stitches taken out a week later, because her doctor told her after he had done the first one that he wasn't going to deal with a person who was hysterical, so she better get it together or he wasn't operating on her for the second one. So that's how we came up with a solution to this problem. There are ways to heal this stuff, people. You have to understand what's causing the problem. All the intellectualization in the world is not going to help you do that. All the watching of YouTube videos, including my own at times, will not do that for you. You need to go to a person who can help you figure out what the hell is going on with you and go from there. I had a client many, many moons ago who was told by a psychologist, I do believe, that she'd be on antidepressants for the rest of her life. None of these damn antidepressants did a damn thing for her, and the reason was because she didn't have depression based on emotions. It was a genetic mutation from both sides of her family. I sent her to an integrative doctor. It took him a little while to figure this out, but when he did, he realized how he needed to help supplement her. So she doesn't have those problems since that time. I wish we had gotten to that answer a lot quicker because she was in her 50s by this time, but at least we figured it out. And that is what you need to have happen. Well, I hope you learned a whole lot from this particular video and you understand that it is not really your job to know what is really going on with you, because I am going to tell you here right now, you don't. You don't know what the root cause of your problem is. You have some ideas of what might be causing a problem here and there. But as the late, great Jerry Klein says, your job is not to listen to your clients, it's to pop them over the head. By that he meant put them in a trance state and get them to do the intervention to help them heal. In his case, he did a lot of regress to cause. Scott Jensen has a whole different way of helping people hypnotically. He doesn't even use an induction to help people, but he helps them understand what the problems are and he helps them to let them go. Me, I do things based on the way I learned how to do hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, and timeline therapy. It works really well for my clients, and I'm learning how to do things quicker thanks to Scott Jensen. So there you go. I want you to get the care you need. I want you to be free of the negative thoughts and behaviors that are causing overwhelm, depression, worrying, anxiety, and anything else that's going on in your life, so you no longer have to deal with these issues, because you don't need to, nor should you. I hope you found this to be very informative, and as always, I thank you for being here with me till next time. Bye-bye.